Exactly as you see in the movies, it drives along, whining from the axle and the gearbox. Visibility is terrible, so you have to lean forward and press yourself right up against the windshield. The turning radius is actually quite respectable for a vehicle like this, but by today's standards, it's considerably large. It measures in at over 6 meters. The steering wheel of a real machine, you really have to work quite hard to turn it, but once you are moving along, it is nice and light. The only thing is, you have to catch the play in the wheel. There are 4 leaf springs here. It's a ship squared. However, because there is no anti-roll bar installed, on uneven road surfaces, it rocks from side to side as well. There are cars that are firmly associated with law enforcement agencies. Whether that's good or bad is up to you to decide. But you can't change the facts. And it's important to know the history. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? That's the question. But the fact is, our passenger car, although heavily reimagined, is still a licensed copy of a Ford. The fundamental basis for the design, according to the licensing agreement with the Americans, was the 1934 Ford Model B 40A. But as is often the case, not everything from the West is suited for our Russian users. It looked good, but was a bit too weak. They began reworking the overseas car almost immediately. By 1935, a prototype was already ready. And on March 16, 1936, the first M1 rolled out of the gates of the Nizhny Novgorod automobile plant named after Molotov. And that's the only way it could be. M1 without GAZ, the first Molotovite. Molotov the first. Well, what do I have to do with it if that's how it was? The transformation of the American car into a Soviet one was overseen by Andrei Alexandrovich Libgard and his associates. The first thing he did was radically redesign the suspension of the new car. Old man Ford loved transverse leaf springs, but that was already an anachronism. Here, as we've already gotten used to, there are 4 longitudinal springs, which meant almost everything had to be redone, especially the steering mechanism. They installed stamped wheels and proper shock absorbers, not those friction ones, but real ones. The rear axle also underwent changes in its mounting, but conceptually it remained like the old man's. Even the drive shaft is housed inside a tube. But in this design, it no longer bears such a load and doesn't serve as a torque arm like it did on the Ford, which means it became more reliable. The dimensions are about the same. Length is 4,625 millimeters, width 1,770 millimeters, height 1,780 millimeters. If they reworked the suspension, then, accordingly, they also changed the frame, seriously reinforced it, and added an X-shaped crossmember in the middle. They changed the suspension mounting points themselves, which makes sense. The frame itself is stamped from 3mm thick steel. You think that's all? No. But first, let's enjoy the bodywork. It's beautiful. It's almost identical to the Ford's. Why change anything? All metal with 4 doors. In American terms, it's a 4-door sedan, all in line with the fashion. A flat windshield, fenders flowing into wide running boards and then back into the fenders. There's minimal chrome here. It accentuates the lines rather than attracting a flock of magpies. A spare wheel in a cover rests on the rear. Pure 1930s aesthetics. The fenders are manufactured by utilizing high-pressure casting technology. Just kidding. The fenders are made using graphic modeling. What exactly is that? First, a scale model is made out of clay or wood, it's examined, some things are removed, and that's how this beauty comes about. By the way, the roof here isn't metal. It's made of leatherette with large steel panels. Even for Americans, it was difficult in those years. The roof is painted the same color as the body. At that time, the M1 became the most comfortable domestic car. It featured a fully enclosed body, unlike the one found on the GAZ A. There were full-size doors with opening windows and draft-free ventilation with 4 pivoting vent windows. The rear vent windows are not on the doors, but on the windows themselves. The interior is fully upholstered in fabric. In the back because it was respected people who rode here, not behind the wheel. Cars were not sold into private ownership. Instead, they were awarded to specific individuals. Yes, this vent window opens with a small manual handle. There is also a very small side window right here. There's more than enough headroom. You could even ride wearing a papaka. There's no trunk in the way we think of it, but there is one. It's the space behind the backrest. A newspaper. Red Star, May 10th, 1945. Comrade Stalin said something here. Knowing the wolfish habits of the Nazi leaders, I consider treaties and agreements to be just worthless pieces of paper. We have no reason to take them at their word. I haven't talked about the engine yet. There are differences here compared to the Americans, too. On the Ford, it's rigidly bolted to the frame. On ours, look, it's mounted on cushions. Because of this, less vibration is transmitted to the body. The engine itself is a 4-cylinder, not a V8. And it's from the previous GAZ A model, just significantly upgraded. The displacement is 3,285 cubic centimeters. The maximum power is 50 horsepower at 2,800 revolutions per minute. The maximum torque is 167 Newton meters at 1,300 revolutions per minute. GAZ M, that's the name of the engine. It received 3 pumps at once, which the GAZ A didn't have. A water pump, an oil pump, and a fuel pump. And if a fuel pump appeared, that meant it became possible to move the tank from under the windshield to the rear. See how the pipe rises? That's a remnant, as in of the old thermosiphon cooling system. What am I getting at? That it's very hard to overheat this engine. And what about the grille? See these compressed slits? That's driver tuning from back in the day. Kind of like the crumpled boots of Army veterans. Here's another important innovation. This engine features a contact oil air filter, an enhanced Zenith-type carburetor with an economizer and a fully automatic air damper valve. And, wonder of wonders, automatic ignition timing advance. No need to adjust it with a lever from the cabin like before. And what about the driver's seat? It's also a bench seat that can be adjusted, but we won't do that because it's bolted to the floor with nuts, and we're not going to unscrew them. There's no heater, just painted metal all around, and that's practical. Don't pay attention to this heater or the handle from the Volga seat. This is tuning. We're talking about a regular car here. The glove compartment sounds like a mailbox when you open it. Ashtray, air conditioner, which lets you crack open the windshield a bit. By the way, did you notice the textured engraving on the little mirror here? By the way, this vent window also opens with a little handle. Isn't it beautiful? And absolutely every single one of the doors can be locked too. The pedal assembly is truly an extraordinarily unique experience to behold for any driver. It is not for long-legged individuals. Ideally, the car is started up and brought to life with a pedal. Now, what about the installed sun visors? A 5-centimeter gap. It's no coincidence that this car ended up in the Federal Protective Service Museum exhibit. After all, brand new cars from Nizhny Novgorod were immediately sent to the USSR's Special Purpose Garage. These cars didn't serve the top officials, of course, but definitely party leaders and generals. I won't accelerate to 100 after all. This is VDNH, there are cameras, and Stalin isn't watching them. But it can reach 100, though it'll take a very long time. But up to 80, no problem, in 24 seconds. I have to mention the fuel consumption. How could I not? 24 liters per 100 kilometers. Gasoline with an octane rating from 59 to 65. Well, whatever you could get. The Model M1, which first began production in the year 1936, was mass-produced throughout the period until 1942. But even after it was officially discontinued, some cars were still being assembled from leftover parts. In total, a final count of 62,888 units were produced. But considering that the vast majority of these cars went to the front and perished there, it's not hard to imagine how few have survived to this day. It's quite an experience as long as you don't brake. Though to be fair, this car has brakes on all four wheels, which was very good for its time. Granted, the brakes themselves are entirely mechanical, so you really have to stomp down hard on them. The gearbox is a simple 3-speed, and second gear is as long as the entire history of the Communist Party. But again, to shift gears properly, you have to move your foot way over to the side simply because there is just not enough room in the footwell. Before the war began, the M model became the main passenger car everywhere, though mostly in the cities. The car was used as a taxi and in medical services. There were even pickups based on them. And of course, they were used by law enforcement, the police, and the NKVD. Noticeable, convenient, always recognizable. For some, it was the Black Maria. For others, just the M model. As they say, to each their own. Everyone has their own associations with the homeland. Well, as for us, we need to continue the hunt.